It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
This is an insane medical breakthrough. The brain can last several hundred years.
A head transplant. How does it work?
Artificial intelligence to conduct complete head and face transplantation procedure.
A new startup company called BrainBridge.
So there's a video going viral right now, especially on TikTok and Facebook. We're talking millions and millions of views. It's called BrainBridge, and it's 100% fake.
Fake news.
And by fake, you mean it's like a fake company. Like they're not
It's not real.
Yeah, the whole thing's not real. Everyone's like kind of dissecting this, no pun intended, as if it's like a, this revolutionary medical thing.
Right.
And it's purely just imagination.
100%.
So
we'll get into why we know that, and we have proof for it. But here's the video that's going around. So if you're squeamish at all, don't watch this. And if you're listening on the podcast and you want to see this gross squeamish stuff, come on over and you'll get some. All right. Anyways, I digress. Here we go.
Introducing BrainBridge, the world's first revolutionary concept for a head transplant machine, which uses state-of-the-art robotics and artificial intelligence to conduct complete head
just looks like a torture machine.
transplantation procedures, ensuring smooth outcomes and faster recoveries. Because head transplants require high speed, precision, and efficiency, BrainBridge utilizes advanced high-speed, high-precision robotic systems to speed up the process, eliminate human error, prevent brain cell degradation, and ensure seamless compatibility. The head transplant procedure involves removing a person's entire head containing the brain from their current diseased body and attaching it to the body of a healthy, young, brain-dead donor.
Humans have talked about this for decades, like the idea that you could like essentially trade in your body and continue your consciousness, some other way. And, one of those ways is conceivably like in a fresh body, just trade it in for something new.
Agreed. Now, obviously, we've said it's fake, but the reality is there's a lot of people that do want this to be real. Like, can you imagine being a billionaire? It's like,
I've worked,
well, yeah, me too. You worked your entire life to set up this wealth and this fortune, and you want to get all this wisdom, or even not even someone who's a billionaire, someone who's just like worked their entire life to become wiser, smarter in a certain subject. And it's like, I have all this information, but my body is failing
you're like
me.
Diagnosed with terminal cancer or something. Yeah.
And it's like, there's so many people talking about this. We're talking news agencies, newspapers, websites that are news related.
The whole like biotech industry is on fire about this thing, talking about it over the last, this video came out like 5 days ago, promoting this organization, BrainBridge.
Right.
There's like a homepage, a landing page for it.
So I don't know if you knew this, but there's an entire full length video.
Like 9 minutes.
Yes. It's like, and it goes into talking about this special AI thing that they wrap around the, I almost said umbilical cord, but the spinal cord. And it's like supposed to be stimulating it and it's just like clearly looks fake, but that's not why we know it's fake. Do you want to see the full video or?
I mean, no, we don't need to. I mean, people can go watch it. We'll put a link to it, but
so
you can skip around though if you want to.
Yeah. So if you look at it, there is a website, BrainBridge. And if you go to the website, there's also like careers that they want. Like someone has gone to great lengths to make this look real. Do you know who's actually faked it?
But let's talk more about this site really quick before we get into that. Go to like, are you zoomed in a little bit?
Well, this is screenshots, but I can go to the website right now. Let me go to the actual website.
But it's a convincing website. Like the thing is, the voiceover in the video, the website itself, it is.
Here it is.
This procedure, it's talked about as though it's in the works and it's in the making, and they're
AI powered, of course,
almost to the point of conducting trials and all this stuff. They do talk about it like future tense, like they say, it's a groundbreaking device that will represent a landmark achievement in the field of neuroscience, human engineering, blah, blah, blah. But they talk about it's innovative and AI-powered, extensive post-operative care, reliable personalized recovery. I mean, they're talking about things even beyond the procedure itself. Go ahead and scroll down a little bit.
Well, even in the video, the 9-minute video, they talk about having you in a coma for like 4 weeks as you heal, but how they're going to take your brain down to 5 degrees.
This is the thing I don't like.
What's that?
So right here, where you watch the video, developed in collaboration with some of the world's leading neuroscientists, engineers, and supported by forward-thinking investors.
That is a direct lie.
That leads one to think, oh, maybe I should invest. How do I get into this? Not me, because I don't have any money. But people who have money would probably think that this is some big, super cool biotech advancement. Here's the thing. This is really only a few pages on this website. And if you click on the video itself, what's interesting is it doesn't take you to BrainBridge's YouTube channel. It takes you to a YouTube channel for this guy named Hashem El-Ghaili. And you can see right there. So this guy, if you look at his channels on YouTube and on Facebook and everything, he creates these sort of like, what I would say, like some of these, I guess, are maybe like real scientific, creative pieces. A lot of it is science fiction. And what it looks like he's done in many cases is he's leveraging AI to the max. So, a lot of this is like, it's AI imagery that he's using in his thumbnails and throughout the videos themselves. He's using AI copy for the script. He's using an AI voiceover. And what he's doing is he's sort of creating these very interesting, like the videos are actually really good.
Somebody did some great animation on this head transplant.
Yeah. But it's good stuff, but it's the majority of it is it's science fiction. It's fake.
Do you remember that there was a story not too long ago about an artificial womb?
Yeah,
that was going around. It was him.
It was. Do you have some facts about that?
That's all I know.
So he did this before. He did this thing where he released what felt like that someone was trying to, for real, create this artificial womb facility called Ectolife. And again, it was kind of put out in the same way, made to sort of appear as a real thing. And that it was, cutting edge biotech and people were investing and all this stuff. And again, it had all these like journalists. There it is right there. Well, it looks like that's in Arabic probably. He's from Yemen, I guess. That's what I understand. But right there, bottom left, Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility.
Yeah, someone's spending time on this.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first
and
artificial
people hopped
womb
on this
facility
so quick.
Powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications.
AI
With
voice.
Ectolife,
100%.
premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past.
So
Ectolife is designed to help.
again, the issue here is like, in both of these cases, these are approached as though like the whole kind of vibe is like, we're introducing you, we, the biotech medical community, are introducing you to this new thing that's coming out, and you have this chance to invest, and it's going to change humanity. And in this case, I think basically he got lots of media from this particular one, Ectolife, which was put out I think a couple of years ago. And it appears to me that he tried to do something similar with the head transplant with BrainBridge. Like on Facebook, his BrainBridge video got like 22 million views.
I didn't know it was that much.
Yeah. And this one, I think, was like 100-something million views on Facebook.
So he's making some money from that.
So here's again, my problem is like, this stuff is, I don't care if you want to play in science fiction. I think that's great. And I think like this is really interesting, actually. It's interesting, like concept.
This stuff's probably going to happen someday.
Maybe. And I hate the thought, honestly. But I just wish you would put a little disclaimer, like, hey, this is make-believe. But I think that is left out intentionally.
Oh, yeah.
Because
the guy has
wouldn't.
818,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. And again, the stuff's good, but it's also entirely false and it's not represented as that way. And I don't like, again, if you go to the website and just in general, like biotech, this kind of stuff, like it is a very fertile ground for investors. And so I can't help but ask the question, like, well, what if someone had come along with like $20 million and they wanted to like get into this thing? Then what? Then where do they go? What happens? And what's interesting is somebody did put some money into this. There's this PhD, this doctor, Alex Zavarenkov, He was essentially the bank for some of this video because there was cost, there was expense. It wasn't just Al-Ghaili that did it. So this guy, Zavorenkov, he owns this generative AI drug discovery company, and it's called In Silico Medicine. And supposedly it's like a legitimate company. I don't know. I think they use generative AI to track, like to model, I guess, like how certain drugs are going to react with whatever. I don't know how it all works, but I could see it being legit. But it's based in Hong Kong. It's actually his face, I guess, on the bodies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, so someone's funding this?
So yeah, so this guy is funded part of this anyway, supposedly, and he's admitted to that. There was an article from MIT.
Well, let me pull that up real quick. I actually have that article.
Yeah, and when I saw this article, by the way, I was like, they're like, the viral video showing a head transplant is fake. And I was like, well, no shit, it's fake. Like nobody thought it was a real video.
Right.
And then I got into it. I was like, oh, you mean like the whole thing is fake? Like the whole company doesn't even exist. Which is kind of crazy. But see, they represent themselves as this like biomedical engineering startup. And the company plans a surgery within 8 years.
I'm wondering if this is a scam, because they talk about no one's found where they're even incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
But something that's interesting, I'm going to go back just a little bit to the first full video. And there's a section of it that is kind of creepy where it talks about how, let me see if I can find it real quick. They actually didn't, they keep you in a suspended animation where your body is not necessarily connected to your brain just yet. So they have you connected to some interface that will entertain you and allow you to, here it is right here.
BrainBridge headband, which is equipped with a brain-computer interface, will allow the patient to communicate their needs during recovery. Thanks to the power of thought, the headband decodes brainwaves and turns them into text or speech. It could allow the patient to control other devices directly from their brain, granting them the autonomy to execute specific tasks independently throughout their...
Anyways, I bring this up because, like, let's say far future, it's the year 2150 and this stuff is actually happening. How terrifying would it be if your brain is now connected to a new body, but you had no way of connecting with anybody or anything? Like,
what do you mean?
Well, like, okay, let's say,
I think what they just described with that little halo was basically a Neuralink.
Exactly.
Describing.
So what I'm saying is that you would have to have something like that, because what if you get transplanted, everything seems to work, but there's something wrong and you can't be connected. You're alive, you got blood, you got oxygen, but you can't communicate. There's just something where the body can't talk, can't speak, can't move, you would just be trapped. Anyways, so yeah, this MIT article.
Trapped, not even in your own body, someone else.
Oh yeah. So this part right here, read that real quick.
As shocking as the video is, BrainBridge is in some ways overly conventional in its thinking. If you want to keep your brain going, why must it be on a human body? You might instead keep the head alive on a heart-lung machine with an Elon Musk neural implant to let it surf the internet for as long as it lives.
So this is an MIT article saying that, why connect it to another body? Why not just take your brain, connect it to a heart and lungs, and you're just sitting there in a pile of goo and connected to Neuralink?
Why not just hook that brain directly up to Instagram and just let it live out its days?
That's what I'm saying. But like, all I'm saying is, look,
that's what
Matrix, the Matrix.
No,
that's what that is.
It is. But like, so what's interesting is
that what the future would be? Like if MIT is, presenting that as an option, it's better off to just not be in a body and be in a, like some weird...
I think that's way better.
What, excuse me?
Yeah. So...
Why? Okay, elaborate on that.
So that paragraph stood out to both of us. And I think it stood out in different ways.
Yes.
So you read that and you're like, that's horrible. I read that and I thought to myself, that's how I imagine you, by the way, as you read this by yourself. That's horrible.
That's how I talk.
I read that and I'm like, compared to the alternative... because we can't do head transplants. So, and honestly, those of us with functional bodies waste them for hours a day, sometimes the majority of days, some people, with our face glued to a device, either in Fantasyland watching a movie or a TV show, surfing social media, consuming content from YouTube or something else, not bettering our lives, in fact, putting off our real lives and living in this matrix. And so we're already doing it. In fact, we want to do it. Our brains want to do it, like that. We're pursuing that.
So you're just saying you're going to give in?
No, I'm not saying
Why
that.
does that sound appealing?
What I'm saying is, if suddenly I lost the use of my body, I watched an interview with the recipient of Elon Musk's Neuralink. I forget his name.
Which I have that in here.
Do you? Okay. He talks about what a life changer it was for him, because he's still paralyzed from the neck down. It's been a life changer to have Neuralink, to where he can actually interact with a device. He can with his brainwaves use a computer like you're doing now. He can pull up Spotify and listen to music. He can watch content on YouTube. That was never throughout modern history. We've never been able to have someone self-sufficiently plug into. We've never had the matrix like we do now, and we've never had anybody with the ability to interface with it. And Neuralink is providing that. And I think that, again, the idea that if I was conscious and I couldn't use the rest of my body, I would be desperate for the ability to surf the web and engage with things and basically be plugged into the matrix. And
here's the guy.
It. And the way virtual reality is going, this is the interview I watched. The way virtual reality is going, and generative, video and all these things. I think.
So you're talking about a true matrix, in a sense.
I think we're a lot closer to having somebody. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I support what the MIT article is saying, which is cutting off someone's head and putting it on a fresh body. We'll talk about some of the dilemmas and problems with that, but it overcomplicates, I think, the solution to the problem, which is because until one day when that actually is feasible, which I really don't know that it ever will be. I think instead, if your two options are to have someone be a quadriplegic and totally dependent on somebody else for everything, including their entertainment and their engagement and their mental health, then I would rather them be plugged into the matrix. And I think they would rather be plugged in. I would rather be plugged in.
I'd rather a clone of my body get his head cut off, my brain put in that thing.
But but it's not that thing. That's you then. You. That's you 2.0.
So there's a movie about that, right? Where it's these people think.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I think there's a movie.
With Jude Law or something, or one of the guys, where it's they think. They don't realize that they're actually just clones for rich people. And whenever they need a lung, they take it out.
So that's. Are we going to talk about that? I don't want to jump ahead. Was there something else? Because I want to get into the moral dilemmas. Let's just imagine that we could do this. I think.
Right. Well,
to me,
first off, you're wrong. First off, I want to say, I just want to.
Do you have a rebuttal to the
yes.
being plugged into the matrix?
Can you imagine? That would break my brain. Literally, it would break my brain to think that my brain, the essence of me, is sitting in some weird primordial ooze where I'm vulnerable to a spider or just someone dropping me, and then that's it of my existence. I would want to have some.
You're vulnerable, my friend.
I know I'm vulnerable.
You're vulnerable that way as it is. You could get bit by a spider right now.
Right. But
you could fall and hit your head.
I can also smack the shit out of that thing. I can kill it. I can run. But what I'm saying is who's also to say that that's not what's happening right now?
I know, right?
For real.
What if we are already there?
Because there's people that are. I just listened to a podcast the other day.
I didn't think we go down that rabbit hole.
I know.
You always love one way or another working the conversation into simulation.
Sometimes I struggle with it. Is this just a game? Sometimes whenever a deja vu happens, I promise you, my friend, I'm the Matrix is real.
Well, that's what they talk about that.
Oh
in the Matrix.
Yeah.
It's a glitch.
But anywho, you're wrong. I wouldn't want to just be. So also, here's the thing.
So we can't agree to disagree. I just have to be wrong.
No, you're wrong. No, of course, I do agree with what you're saying. But the weird thing is too is I'd rather be a clone of my body if they were able to take my brain and put it in another body. But the reality is if you were able to take your brain and put it in another body, that body will reject your brain. Like, because it's not the same makeup. So they'd have to figure out that whole thing out. You'd have to be on immune suppressants your entire life. But also, is it fake, or do they not want the peasants to know? That's my question.
So you're saying is the actual hoax that it is in fact real,
yes,
and is like it's much further along, but there's like this fake leak where it's like, oh no, just kidding, it's not real.
Because it was interesting how all the podcasts jumped on it. And a lot of the news people just jumped on this new thing. It's a revolutionary concept. It's going to change everything. They're talking about it. And then MIT comes out with it a few days later and goes, guys, this is fake. This, here's all the problems with it.
Even if the peasants found out, they can't afford it.
I know.
This is like, I mean, we're talking, I can't even guess at the cost of this.
I mean, if it was guaranteed, it would be
when my dad
millions.
had his heart attack and was in the hospital for like 3 days. His bill was like $110,000. Now he didn't pay that because he has insurance.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, like, the idea that, like, let's say this was real. I can't see Blue Cross Blue Shield covering this.
No,
they'd be like, wait. You want to do what? Yeah, no, we're not going to cover.
But then
that.
it comes down to like sovereignty over assets. People would just be like, but you're not that person anymore. Do you really own all these stocks? Do you own all these assets? Well,
then you define the soul at some point, like consciousness.
That's the thing. It's like people then will have to define that consciousness, the soul.
Well, hold on. I want to hold. Let's group all of our like dilemmas and issues with this. Like if it were real, let's group them and talk about them all at once. Because I have a list, and we can do that. But what is this?
I have a real head transplant story.
Sure you do.
So we've talked about how people are coming out and saying that it's BS.
You realize decapitation is not a head transplant. You can't just like take a head and throw it across the room, right?
It's the first steps.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
This guy, I want you to watch this story.
Spirodonov?
Yes. So
Seems
Joe Scott has a YouTube
valid.
channel, and he was talking about this guy. It was all over the news about 6 years ago.
In 2015, Dr. Sergio Canavero, a man who in no way looks like a mad scientist who wants to attempt a human head transplant, announced that he was totally going to attempt a human head transplant. And everyone around him was like, call it. Yeah, I can see him. I told you. And believe it or not, he had a volunteer. The guy's name was Valery Spiridonov. He was a Russian programmer with muscle wasting disease called spinal muscular atrophy, which left him paralyzed and immobile. So yeah, when he heard that somebody was going to attempt a human head transplant, he was like, you know what? Pop this head on something better. Is it actually feasible? What kind of advancements would need to be made to make it happen? And maybe the biggest question, is it a head transplant or a body transplant? Canavero was born in Turin, Italy in 1964, and according to him, he had a rough upbringing and a poor family, but he worked hard, and by the age of 18, he enrolled in the medical program at the University of Turin. He graduated from there and trained in the hospital as a functional neurosurgeon beginning in the 1980s. He would then go on to work as a neurosurgeon at the hospital for nearly 22 years. And really, by all accounts, he was an accomplished neurosurgeon. He did pioneering work on central pain syndrome and Parkinson's disease. He even became the director of the Turin Advanced Neuromodulation Group. And yet, in 2015, he was unceremoniously fired from his position at the university, and they cut all ties with him. For some reason.
A head transplant.
Head transplant.
Head transplant.
Head transplant.
It is funny how the news just hops on this stuff.
Yeah, it was a severed head thing. I also feel like I should point out that his Wikipedia page describes him as having an idiosyncratic personality. Really? The head transplant guy is a little off? Who knew? I knew. Turns out he's been interested in this topic since the 80s, but he started making real plans in the 2010s. And in 2015, he published a rough description of how he'd do it. And who he'd do it to. That man was Valery Spiridonov, who I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So Valery's story seems to have played out like this. He was 33 years old when he signed up for this. That was in 2015. And his body was still deteriorating from a condition called Wernicke-Hoffman disease. He went from being a healthy, normal dude to having trouble walking, having trouble writing. And he just kept getting worse and worse until he was confined to a wheelchair and had to have almost everything done for him. With his body getting progressively worse, he may have feared what was coming with his condition more than what he feared might happen in the surgery. Now, when Canavero first announced the surgery, he described it as imminent. But, after his announcement, he lost his position at the University of Turin. He had to find a new home base to do this from, and he found one in China. Harbin University.
Of course, China's like,
where
sure.
An orthopedic
Where's
surgeon
China
named
keep
Xiaoping
supporting
Ren
these,
doing similar research.
Dude, because you know they're doing it.
Relocating and
China
further
is doing
research
this
kind
stuff.
of
They're
pushed back the
cloning people
imminence of the
now,
surgery
probably.
by a few years. And while Valery was waiting, something kind of amazing happened. First of all, his body kind of stabilized. His disease stopped progressing. Now,
Whoa, that's crazy.
That might be an overly optimistic way of saying that it got as bad as it was going to get, like it couldn't possibly get any worse, but it wasn't getting any worse. And
This guy's
he
low
kind
key,
of
kind of funny.
Second of all,
Watch this.
dude got married. Yeah, he met a woman named Anastasia Panfilova, and they fell in love and got married. This is a picture of Anastasia. She married him. Oh, and she's also got a master's in chemical engineering, so she's also super smart and accomplished. And
Oh, he
yes, they are
decided
married.
maybe he should stick around for a while.
Watch this.
Yeah, he dropped out of the surgery.
Yeah, no joke.
So my choices are: I could spend the rest of my life with a hot Russian chemical engineer, or I could have my head cut off by Dr. Nosferatu over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cake or death?
No, all kidding aside, they are happily married. They
That's
have
a
a
cake
kid
or
together.
death.
They now live in Florida,
know
and he
what
runs
is
his
it.
own software company. He is living his best
So good
life.
for that
and
guy.
yeah, in 2019, he dropped out of the surgery, though he does still support the mission. So the head transplant dream is dead, right? No. Does this look like a guy who gives up on things?
Anyways, that's it. Sorry it's so long, but it's interesting. Like, this is a topic that's happening right now. Now, it's a little bit of taboo, you know, because people, I mean, this guy seems like
The
people
idea of
yes.
cutting off heads is crazy. Like it's
But China's like, yeah, no problem, buddy.
do it.
We'll do it. So anyways, that's what I was going to show you, that like it's in the zeitgeist, as they say. I mean, people are talking about it. I mean, look at Neuralink, as you were talking about that. But anyways, that's the case where it's really actually this guy's trying to do it. He did a full TED talk, about a 20-minute TED talk about it. But I want to hear what you were saying.
this conversation. It's hard to talk about this whether you know it was back in 2018, I think they said, or whether it's now. You look at some of the content that's out there as a result of BrainBridge, and like it's hard to talk about this without talking about like the moral and ethical dilemmas around it. And I think when they first started doing like heart transplants, there was some conversation about this too, where it's like, well, where does your soul and your consciousness actually like live? Like if we're you know, if you were to receive a heart transplant from somebody, are you, you know, the question at the time being like, well, are you like, is that person's like soul?
Yeah.
We talk about our
Yeah.
soul, you know, as like part of like our internal.
Well, how about it?
heart.
How weird is it sometimes when people get transplants, they start taking on characteristics of the person they received it from?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like,
Really?
for example, there's a lot of stories out
Really?
there where
Interesting.
someone will receive a heart transplant and they didn't really care about jazz.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, a month or so after it, they start loving jazz, and they never liked jazz. And then they come to find out that person was a jazz musician. Coincidence, maybe, but, you know, or certain like loves for food, like hates Mexican food, but then all of a sudden absolutely loves it. And then you find out the person
Is that like a certain organ or something, or is it just any?
don't know. I mean, yeah, just that's the thing. Let me actually look it up. Do you want to?
Well, so I mean, that kind of
like, do we know where like it's our genes,
Right.
our
But I think
makeup?
broadly speaking, we would probably say like, oh, like I cut my hand off. I lost
Right.
my hand in an accident. I didn't really lose a part of my consciousness or my soul.
Right.
I lost a limb.
How weird would it be
And,
if we find out that in our DNA is where our memory is actually stored? And so if like
So it really is throughout the whole body.
it like I have
Yeah.
no proof of that, but how weird would it be if it's stored in our DNA, so it's everywhere? So if someone takes my arm, all of a sudden they're just like getting weird memories or impulses.
But I do think, I guess my point is that I think we all would agree that if your consciousness and your existence as a living thing exists anywhere in your physical body, it probably is in your brain.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think, and so the idea of like having, and I noticed, by the way, nobody's talking about brain transplants. They're talking about head transplants. So it's interesting to me that
Bro, did you see the rest of the video? Hold up, I'm going to cut you off.
What?
Where they talk about how they're going to take the head, put it on this body, then they're going to cut the face.
Yeah, the face.
They cut the face off and they're going to put it on the body so you can have that young, youthful look. And it's just like,
what's
bro.
weird though is like, you know how old people's ears are like huge?
Yes.
Because your ears and your nose actually
Tell me
never.
about it. I have that.
They never stop growing. Did you know that? Your ears and
I
your nose-
feel it. Those can't see it, but look at these bad boys.
No. But like, I was thinking to myself, like, wait a minute. So you're gonna have this youthful body, a sewed on youthful face, and you're gonna have this very old head from the ears back. You're gonna have like a 80-year-old head from the ears back. It's very weird. So here's some more dilemmas though.
Okay.
So it reminds me of the scene in Jurassic Park where the guy's like, he's sort of chastising, what is it, Dr. Hammond or whatever, the guy who's like funding the whole Jurassic Park, and he's saying that, you know, you guys were so worried about whether you could, you didn't stop to think about whether you should. And
I feel like that all the time, especially with AI stuff right now. Just
sure.
because you can?
Yeah.
Does that really mean you should?
Yeah. And that's where it's like, well, again, I go back to like, well, how badly do we really need this to be able to put somebody's, you know, like, I think honestly, like if you look at autonomous robots right now and like the physics behind what they're able to do with,
Is that what they're going to do?
Electric powered. Like I think it makes a lot more sense, and it's probably a lot easier, especially with the progress we've made with Neuralink.
So you're telling me, here's what's going to happen. Instead of putting it on another body, they're going to take a Tesla bot. Yep. And so as MIT was saying,
or not a Tesla, a Boston Dynamics,
whatever. So like the MIT thing said, why not just have it be a heart and lung connection?
Because all you need is blood and oxygen.
Right, and nutrients. So put it in a body. So it'd be like RoboCop. That does make more sense.
And it takes
you know they're going to do that.
I'm telling you that.
They're going to do that, and that's going to be so weird.
There's a lot that they talked about in that video, BrainBridge. If you really kind of like watch the whole 9-minute thing, they sort of try to, they act as though, oh yeah, we've just solved this problem of just transplanting a head onto a body. But within it, as they talk about it, there's several instances, like 10 or 11 things where they're like, oh yeah, we just do this. We have this proprietary plasma, and we have this thing, and we like glue this and like attach all these things, and AI uses lasers. And it's like, none of that exists. So you actually got to solve like 11 or 12 really significant problems that science has not tackled yet in order to actually do the one thing, which is transplant a head onto another body. But again, I just feel like it would be a lot easier to, with where technology and science is right now, to like blend like RoboCop style, you know, the human aspect, like the anatomical biological piece, which again is what you're looking at.
Is this what you're talking about?
Go ahead and play it.
Play on this. That first off, that's disgusting.
There's a generation of people who haven't seen RoboCop.
I know. So basically, they be transplanting this type of stuff into the robo, and that's what they did in the movie.
Yeah. That's what they're talking about doing now. You wouldn't even need. Dude. What's crazy is you wouldn't even need the whole spinal cord and spinal column, because what they did in RoboCop is basically had like the spinal nerves and all this stuff like kind of reach out. Well, go ahead and play. Is that the face? I want to see.
Oh, that's awful. That would be just torture. Holy cow.
Speaking of torture, I found myself as I was watching the BrainBridge thing, I was like, what do they do for anesthesia for this? Because if you're going to inject anesthesia into someone's body and then remove their head from the body, and like the brain is the epicenter of your neurons and your nervous system, then like it's no longer the anesthesia is no longer like coursing through your blood.
Well, don't they do like brain surgery on you with no anesthesia? Because the brain has no receptors in there for pain.
Yeah, but your freaking neck and spinal cord and all this stuff does. And so I was like, well, they just showed like a gas mask. And I was like, surely that's not the only thing they're doing. Because again, the gas mask, like general anesthesia like that relies upon, again, you inhaling that into and metabolizing it in your lungs, basically. So again, there's medical problems with it. But also like, I was thinking through, okay, so this donor, this like sort of this avatar of like a perfect donor.
Donor. Oh man.
You have the donor and the recipient. I'm like, who would be the donor then? Because
dude, it's gonna be poor people.
Well, right.
It's gonna be someone's like, hey, AI, turn off this guy's brain because rich boy needs the body.
Yep.
So it comes down to
eventually you get to a point where you are in fact like creating a second class of cattle humans. That basically would become...
But that goes down to the dilemma where people were talking about having cars driving. Cars could be so quick in a scenario where there's going to be a wreck and they could see, do I hit this person over here and they are a senator, or do I hit this family of two that doesn't affect at all anything? They're just say, I don't know, podcasters or whatever it is. Like they
don't matter.
They don't matter. Are they gonna? Is it gonna swerve? Which one's it gonna choose? Because it can't back up. It can't stop. The momentum is happening. So in this scenario, fast forward 100 years, everybody's connected to some kind of Neuralink because people are gonna adopt it so quick. Because people who have a Neuralink are gonna be faster, smarter, making way more money, and people are gonna be like, well, of course I got to get it. Look at the.
Well, yeah, you think about like
the phone.
Well,
everybody was like, "Oh, well, they got a phone. I want a phone." Just because the peer pressure of it all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's say it cost you $1 million. People will take out loans to do that because though they're just going to think, "Well, I'll of course make that $1 million back because I'll be so smart. I'll be connected at all times." Then my point would be, at some point in time, does that person's brain just accidentally get shut off and brain dead? Is it because billionaire Bezos wants a new body? Like.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's what you're talking about when you're saying like a moral issue.
Yeah, I think. Well, again, I'm thinking of the rare instances where, if I was the recipient of a donor, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have a pretty strict criteria here, and you got to think like, okay, you need a body essentially where someone is a vegetable or brain dead, as they say in the video. But in a way that they couldn't have been in a car wreck and been like have their body mangled or damaged. It's
got to be the right blood type.
I think in many cases, if someone has a traumatic head injury, they've also suffered trauma to their neck, their like spinal cord. I mean, it's difficult to like, again, unless, someone who's like falling from any kind of height and, their melon is cracking into the sidewalk of the road or something, like there's surely damage, like to the point where it kills them or puts them in a vegetative state. There's damage to your cervical spine for sure.
I can see a scenario too where people who want to be the different gender would want to do it too in the future. Like if it was possible to do it, someone who really believes that they're a girl,
especially if you get the face.
Yeah, they would. Some people would be like, "I'm in the wrong body," but
boy,
so
that
risky.
People say that now.
Yeah,
and that's a weird.
It's a weird scenario where they could find some donor.
What if you could, in fact, then get into the right body, not by just current surgical means, but like you could like officially change bodies.
Yeah,
get into some strange territory there.
Man, it's weird. Now we know it's fake. Obviously, we know it is. I was a little disappointed in how many podcasts hopped on it and was acting as if it's right off the bat it's real. I know they did a good job of making it look real, but like 20 minutes of looking into it, you're kind of like, why is this YouTuber who does animations have control of this video? Did he steal it? Then you go looking around on Facebook, you're like, oh, it's the same guy. So it's fake, y'all.
As we are careening into this new frontier of AI content, is it appropriate for people to do sort of social experiments like this? Because for as long as I can remember on television, you look like Ashton Kutcher, and like he would prank people. He would create a scenario where they thought that, something was happening or wasn't happening. And then after a while, he'd be like, oh, just kidding. Like,
I hate
you got
stuff.
pranked. I forget what he called it, but punked. Yeah, that's right. You've been punked. And everyone laughs and it's fun. It's like, but to me, this seems, the reach of this and the viral nature of this kind of stuff, where it can take off and take a life of its own, AI. And you've got like with Ectolife, the fake womb factory or whatever, with like 100 million views on Facebook and people commenting and thinking like this is real, and it affects that's the thing is like, if you're watching Ashton Kutcher on Punk'd, everybody knows except for that one person who's being punked that like, it's all fake. We're all in on the joke. Something like this where like suddenly, immediately once it is released into the world, you've got all these medical journals, these technology professionals, like all these people speaking on this thing as if like, hey, this is finally here. Head transplants. We've been talking about it. Within the next decade, it'll be here. And again, by acting as though it's real, there's some financial and ethical implications, I think. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's okay?
No, I don't think it's okay. But if he would have said joking or somewhere to say like, guys, this is just a concept. The darker side of it is if someone's trying to raise money and it's not a real thing.
Which it feels like they were trying to do
like
that.
Maybe they could go to some like SoftBank.
They made fake job descriptions on their website.
A group I follow called Corridor Digital, they have a secondary channel called Corridor Crew, and they made a Boston Dynamics fake video, and the title is New Robot Makes Soldiers Obsolete. And so this fooled everybody.
Didn't fool me. I watched it.
It didn't fool me at all. But like also, they say right here at the beginning, Corridor Digital. Like they almost like let people know right off the bat that this is fake. But like this got Joe Rogan too. Like they did a great job, man, of blending that in. But you could tell.
Says Boss Town Dynamics.
Yeah, Boss Town. But they did do a great job. But 88 million views. By the way, this is totally going to be a thing in 10 years. Like, you know, China's making some version of Boss Town Dynamics ripoff. It's funny, a lot of the comments where people were sad that they were hitting them so hard. It's a robot, y'all.
I'm sad because if that were real, that'd be like $30 million worth of technology that he's smashing.
But the point is, like, this whole video goes through and it kind of just, that's it. Just the whole video is the same as Boston Dynamics. Man, they did a good job with those shadows. Those shadows look pretty good.
Well, I don't know. So like,
but 88 million views, they made some money off of this.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Joe Rogan shared it on his and everybody's like, bro, this is fake.
Go down. What's that? How I know it's real? What is that?
Oh, sure. This is on. A lot of people have been saying these.
Oh my God, it looks so good. This is like the best CGI I've ever seen.
The hardest thing to do in CGI these days is motion.
I take one look at this Bosstown robot, I'm like, that's so fake.
I don't think any VFX shop on the planet could make this 2.5-minute sequence to the flawless quality that we're seeing here.
Yeah, I just like, why do people think this is fake when our thing is real?
Before robots can take over the world, apparently they have to take over the dance floor first.
Last year, Boston Dynamics dropped a video of the robots dancing titled, Do You Love Me? And I happened to be right there when it went live. And like, perfect, I'm gonna leave a comment as Corridor Crew. You know, CGI can't ever beat the real thing. You guys are amazing.
Oh my God, 69,000 likes on that comment?
I think the point comes down to if it's on the internet, don't trust it.
And I think that's what I'm getting at too, is like, as we enter into the age of AI everything, AI voices, AI, like I was watching, Leah was showing me a video yesterday of Joe Biden speaking, especially as we get close to this election too.
Mm-hmm.
But, speaking and they had him fumble a bunch of stuff and like come to find out chunk of it was fake. Like it was not real. Like they made it look as though he was, fumbling. He does that for real. But
I mean, if I myself in a small 1080 GPU on my little computer can deep fake stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
In an afternoon,
like world wars could result from manipulated video of world leaders, video and audio, and like.
I mean, you're seeing that right now with the whole Gaza thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of that.
Like, there's a lot of bad stuff that's happening there, but a lot of stuff that people are sharing. I'm like, guys, this is clearly AI video. Yeah. And then they comment back, well, it's a representation of what's actually happening. It's like, no. Maybe so. Then print a report. Don't try to fake a video or fake pictures.
Yeah.
We've got to be skeptical of everything these days. And when it comes down to this thing, it's fake. Sorry, guys.
Fake.
But it's coming. People are actively working on it.
I thought when I sent it to you, I thought it was real. And I was like, holy shit. Like this, I had the same thought that probably a lot of people did. It was like, wow, like they're serious about this thing. And this is like maybe going to happen. And, you know, I thought it was kind of cool, but it ain't real.
Well, you know that people are actively trying to make this happen. I mean, people are, the longevity science, there's billions and billions being put into it right now.
Instead, right now, though, what people are actively trying to do is grow YouTube channels based on misdirection and misinformation, and that's frustrating to me. But
so I think you're right. They're going to have a really sophisticated robot in the future where we'll be inside of it. They've got to figure out how the nutrition works, you know, because there's a lot of stuff that happens when we eat food that we don't understand what's happening. So I don't know right yet we can, you know, fix that yet, but maybe with AI in 100 years, I could see that being a case. I think you might be right, where we might just be the heart, the lungs, the brain.
Have you ever seen Futurama?
Oh yeah.
You know how like there's all the heads, like these characters from throughout history that have been like cryogenically frozen, and then
there's like Nixon always like, brah, move me over there.
Yeah, they're basically like fishbowl heads, and then the head can be like attached to this like robot body. I think that's possible. I think we could end up with.
I know that sounds futuristic and dumb, and people are gonna say we're crazy, but the reality is, it's coming. People are trying that stuff. People want to live longer than a measly 70 or 80 years.
We're an incredibly feeble. Species.
It's like put all the soft tissue on the outside that a mosquito can cause you to die.
Yep. We're so fragile. Like I would almost rather if you have to drop my consciousness into another form, into another being, would almost rather this like, you know, superhuman chassis to carry my existence around in. My consciousness.
We're living in the future, my friend. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
That's all I got. It's all fake. Don't be fooled.
Yeah.
In this age of AI.
Anyways, that's our thoughts. Let us know what you think. Leave us a comment. I want to know, are we heading towards a future of us doing head transplants, or do you think it's going to be like RoboCop, where they're putting our brains in a robot? Now that you said that, I'm feeling like it's that way.
I vote RoboCop.
Yeah. That would be cool. Except for, are we even going to be human at that point?
I will be.
Anyways, we're out. Thanks, everybody.